Hi, I'm C.C. Péan, and this is Reclaiming Your Health. Hello, good evening, and welcome from Tampa, Florida. I am home tonight, and I'm so excited to be here with you all and getting ready for the holiday season. And so I've got a recipe I'm going to share with you this evening, and then next week we're going to do two. So when I was thinking about what to prepare this evening, I thought to myself, during the holidays, growing up, my father, as a vegetarian, he would always have to eat sides. I even remember as children growing up when we would be on the road, my dad would end up eating French fries for a meal because at that time, they really weren't thinking about people who had alternate diets. So I wanted to, this evening, share with you all a recipe that could be one of those great sides. Like if you're just going to have sides, this is a great side to have. Or if you are also doing a main course, a plant-based main course, this is a great addition to it. This is something that I love. I am a carbaholic. I love bready, cakey type things. And this evening, we are going to be making a corn pudding. As I was preparing it, my husband came downstairs, and he's of Haitian heritage, and he said, "That looks like maïs soufflé," which it very much is. Corn is a gift to world cuisine by Native American populations. And it is something that can be eaten in numerous different ways. This dish can be made numerous different ways, but corn can be cornbread, it can be cornmeal, it can be, just cooked cornmeal is some people call it polenta. Some people call it grits if it's a slightly different variation of the corn kernel. There's so many different ways to prepare it. Cornmeal porridge is something that I love. My mother was from Guyana, South America. That was, my brother and I loved that. She used to make cornmeal porridge with golden raisins and cinnamon and nutmeg and a little bit of milk, and it was so good. And it was one of those things that really filled you. That's the other great thing about corn. Unfortunately, corn is one of our most genetically modified crops. So I encourage you to try to find organic corn if you use it, or if you are eating corn that's just, traditionally or conventionally grown, limit your consumption of it because it is one of those things that, like I said, is really modified. You can find some variations, but it is something to keep an eye out for. So this dish is one of those things that, it can be a side dish again for Thanksgiving, and it's something that meat lovers will enjoy and appreciate as well. Or it can be more of a main course. I mean, you can serve this corn pudding, and you can do some beautiful vegetables, grilled vegetables on the side. You can serve it with some sliced avocado and some, scallions across the top, or cilantro. There's so many different ways to eat it. And one of the things that I always talk about when I speak about transitioning to a plant-based lifestyle is that we need to break away from feeling that things have to be eaten a certain way or a certain time of day. So, for example, Western diet tells you that breakfast should be bacon and eggs and toast and pancakes and waffles and cereal and things like that. Why? Why not have a really great bowl of, braised kale for breakfast alongside some oatmeal or alongside a piece of cornbread? Why not? We don't have to eat what we're being told we have to eat. What we need to do is we need to eat for nutrition. We need to eat for what is going to be most nutrient dense and give us energy throughout the day. And In me mentioning braised kale, braised collards, cornbread for breakfast, that may seem really heavy, but if you think about it, there's a suggested way of eating. I don't know another word to use for it, but to eat breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, and dinner like a pauper. So we actually should, earlier in the day, eat the heavy meal, and then as we progress through the day, eat the lighter and lighter meal. Dinner should typically be something like soup and salad or something really simple and light like that. So this cornmeal, corn pudding could be eaten in the morning. So what is going into this? This is a recipe that I came across that I just adapted a little bit. Those of you who know me know that I am known as the Afro-Carib vegan chef. The name of my business is Afkave. And so I frequently look for ways to incorporate the flavors and the cooking styles of Africa and the African diaspora. So corn is absolutely apropos. But in addition to that, I'm going to add a few things. In place of regular cane sugar, which was called for in this recipe, I'm going to use a little bit of coconut sugar. There's a couple reasons. I love the caramelized flavor it gives, but also it is less processed. If you had any idea what goes into the processing of white sugar, you likely would not use it. So this is a much healthier product to use. If you're going to use sugar, this is the one that you want to use. It's organic coconut sugar. And this corn pudding, you're probably wondering, why is sugar going in corn pudding? Well, because it's one of those sweet, savory things. You all know I love sweet, savory. I love different flavors and stuff in my dishes. So we're going to use coconut sugar. We're also going to use some corn. Okay, I have two types of corn here. I have a corn that was frozen, that has been thawed, and then I'm using this summer crisp corn. I think that this is literally one of the most delicious corn products that I've come across. It's vacuum packed, and it is super crisp, and it's super sweet, and this one has no salt added. So I'm going to be using a little bit of this along with my other corn. I'm going to use a full bottle of Just Egg that is room temperature. In place of this, if you don't want to use Just Egg, you could always use a block of silken tofu and a tablespoon and a half of cornstarch. And you put that in your blender and add a little bit of plant milk to that to get it to kind of like a runny consistency. And that's what you could use if you don't want to use Just Egg. It's a little bit kind of pricey to use this. That's the other one in the oven, just about to finish. We're going to use 4 tablespoons of melted plant butter, 2 tablespoons of plant milk, plain and unsweetened. I've got about 2 to 3 teaspoons of fresh thyme that I have minced up. Got a little bit of salt here. To bring in a little bit of that eggy flavor, we are going to be using a little of Afkave's Tofu Scramble Magic, just a touch. I think that creamy dishes, period, always taste good with a little bit of nutmeg. So we've got some fresh nutmeg that we're going to use, and I'm going to grate that. I always suggest people, when you get nutmeg, buy the nutmeg whole and grate it as you need it. It is such an altogether different flavor, different smell. It's a totally different experience because it's much fresher. So I would suggest that you do that. I'm gonna have to run and catch that oven or else it's gonna annoy us. A little bit of baking powder and a little bit of corn, some diced onion and some scallion. Let me grab that out of the oven. I'll be right back. So let's get going. So the first thing I'm gonna do, when I make dishes like this, I like to, you all know, what am I gonna say? I love layers of flavor. I'm not just gonna do one anything. I wanna build up those layers of flavor so we don't need as much salt at the end. So what I'm gonna do now is I am going to cut up, this is half of a white onion. You can also put garlic in this if you'd like to. And I'm just gonna, it's kind of a fine chop, it's not really minced. Okay, so that's about a half of an onion. I'm gonna turn on my, let that get hot, and we're going to saute those. I don't want to put those in, I don't want to put those in the mixture raw. I want those a little cooked. Also, I'm gonna mince up some scallion. You know, you can also, if you wanted to, you could put some bell peppers in here. You could put some spicy peppers like jalapeno. A lot of people do that, but kind of give it more of a, what they call like a Mexican cornbread. There's so many different things you can do with this. There have been times that I've actually taken a little bit of jerk powder and put that in there. I don't want anybody making any faces about that suggestion because there's so many unique ways and different ways to add flavor. And then that gives us kind of that island profile. Okay. I'm just gonna put my onion. I was talking to Stan off camera and I was telling him I feel like I've been gone from home so long, I've forgotten where a lot of things are in my kitchen. All right, so while that cooks, we're gonna start assembling our corn pudding. So the first thing we're gonna do in this bowl, this is a 1/3 cup of flour. You can use gluten-free flour. So if you're gluten-free, switch this out for a 1-to-1 and you will be fine. So that's a 1/3 cup of flour. To that, we're going to add 2 teaspoons of baking powder. There's 1. There's 2. I don't know if you all are aware, I'm just going to share this. This little straight edge. Can you see that? This little straight edge is what helps you level off your spoon. So you have the right amount. So we've got 2 teaspoons of baking soda. I'm going to use about a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. We're going to use a tablespoon of the tofu scramble magic. We're going to use about a tablespoon of my minced thyme. Onions are cooking up. And I am going to grate my nutmeg over this dry mixture. I'm telling you, there is nothing like fresh nutmeg. So I'm just going to use this. And I'm probably going to put the equivalent of maybe 1/8 of a teaspoon of nutmeg in here. Okay, I'm going to use this and make sure I've got it all well incorporated. Make sure that's well incorporated. I know a lot of people like to use sifters. You can do that as well if you like. Okay, that's mixed well. And I'm gonna set this aside, and now I'm going to take, this is so simple. This is my entire, how much salt is in my tofu scramble. I am working that information out, but it is scant. Most of the flavor in my tofu scramble comes from the turmeric, it comes from the nutritional yeast, it comes from the garlic powder. It's scant, but I can't speak on that right now, but I will share that with you. I'm working on refining the actual, the nutritional content of my spices, but it is scant. As you know, I'm not big on salt at all. Okay, so here is an entire 12-ounce container of Just Egg. To that, we are adding our 4 tablespoons of melted plant butter, our 2 tablespoons of plant milk, and I'm going to get my whisk again, and I'm gonna whisk that all together. All right, so I'm gonna set that aside. So here is my baking dish that I'm going to spray. This is a spray olive oil. I get my onions over here. I'm actually going to put my onions in that mixture of the Just Egg, the plant butter, and the plant milk. That's all going to go in there. And there are 2 different ways to do this. You can, and just mix it up a little bit. There's 2 different ways to do this. You can either mix it all together, you put your wet mixture with your dry mixture gradually, and then you put your corn in there and bake it like that. There are some recipes that suggest you just put the corn at the bottom and then pour the mixture over the top. For this one, we're going to put the corn at the bottom and then pour the mixture over the top. Okay, so it's about 3 to 3.5 cups. This is drained. We've got about a cup here that just goes in the bottom. And we're gonna do another, that's 2. And that's 3. Of course, if you want it a little more custardy, you can use less corn, but then you're definitely gonna have to increase your baking. Right now, we bake this at 350 for about 55 minutes to an hour, depending on your stove. All right, doing musical chairs here. We put that aside. And now I'm going to gradually mix this in to my dry mixture. I continue whisking so that we don't have any clumps. This is such a great dish, and it's the kind of thing that, Thanksgiving, you have this ready to go, and when your guests are about to come, you pop it in the oven and it comes out nice and hot for dinner time. All right, almost done. I didn't put any garlic in this, but you can also do garlic if you like. Right. All righty. Now you would always, you can taste this for salt if you want it to have a little more salt to it, that's fine, but I always suggest that you add that afterwards. A lot of us have issues with salt, and once something is salted, you can't unsalt it. So I like to leave that for individuals. So now we're just gonna pour this over. It's just that simple. Pour that over. There are some people that add cheese to this. You can add some shredded plant cheese to this. That would be delicious as well. This is really something that you can play around with and make it your own. Okay, so now I'm just gonna make sure this is evenly distributed. Okay. And this is going to go into the oven. for about 55 minutes to an hour. Oops, I forgot something. My scallions. These are gonna go on top. You can kind of tuck them in a little bit if you want to. I'm also gonna put some on at the end. My plate. All righty, I am going to the oven. I will be right back. All righty. And with the magic of television, initially I wanted to do 2 recipes tonight, but I thought it might take too much time. But this went rather quickly, wouldn't you say, folks? Yeah, it's 8:21. So I'm just gonna clean up a little bit. Want to cut up some of this scallion for my plating. I love a beautiful plate, and I think it's so important to keep that in mind when you're cooking. People like to eat beautiful food. Sometimes you hear people say it's almost too pretty to eat. Okay. And a lot of times garnish not only looks good, but it tastes good. And I always like to think about that. When you are using garnish for your dishes, think about stuff that's going to actually complement the flavor. Don't just throw something on there because it's green, There are some things that must be cooked for you to eat them. So if you throw something on there that's not cooked, that needs to be, and somebody thinks it's part of the dish, they're going to have a rude awakening. So, are you ready to see the finished dish? This is our finished dish. Take a look at that. This is our finished dish. This is our corn pudding, and it's golden brown around the edges. Smells amazing. So I'm just gonna, and it's not supposed to be dry. It's supposed to be a little wet because it's a corn pudding. And you see how that's beautiful. Let's see if I can show you the edge, because we sprayed this dish well. It's pulling away. Look at that. Can you see that? Can you see that? Let's see. Let me see if I can get that. Can you see how that's pulling away? And it's beautifully caramelized all the way around. This looks so good. This is going to be a mouthful of deliciousness. Heart healthy, plant-based, simple to make. Let's just move this out of the way so we can make this plate pretty. So we've got this here. I'm going to put some scallion on top of this. I am going to use some Violife Parm. I didn't put cheese in it, but I can always put cheese on top of it. And this is plant-based cheese. This looks so good. I haven't done this in a while, folks, but I think I'm going to grab a spoon and take a taste. All right, so this is what it looks like. Ooh, that looks so good. It's golden brown around the edges. You've got those nice plump kernels of corn, sweet corn in there. Let's see how it tastes. It's hot, so I might folk. That is delicious. This is a beautiful Thanksgiving side. And you know, I mentioned that corn was a Native American contribution. Where can you get this cheese? I got this cheese. I think I got it at, I want to say I got it at Publix. You can get it at Publix, any little health food store around. I believe Sprouts has it as well. And it shreds. It looks just like parm. And I've kept one of these logs in my refrigerator for months and like aged it myself. Delicious. So I mentioned that the Native American contribution was corn, and I'm talking about Thanksgiving, and I didn't even think about how apropos this is to serve this dish. You know, there are a lot of whack things about Thanksgiving, we know. But this is a delicious dish to serve on Thanksgiving, celebrating the Native American contribution to world cuisine and filling your belly with yumminess at the same time. Super simple, super quick. You can make it, set it aside, and have it come out nice and hot out of the oven. You can serve this again with some grilled vegetables on the side, or some avocado would add nicely to this with a nice creaminess. There's so many things you can do, or you can just eat it in a bowl just like this and be greedy like me. Thank you for joining me for my corn pudding, or as my Haitian family says, maïs soufflé. Next week, we are going to be doing 2 more delicious plant-based sides that even a meat eater will love. See you then. Bye-bye.